Ji-woo sat in her small apartment on the edge of the colony, staring at the holographic screen that filled her tiny living room with blue light. The broadcast showed the grand arena of the Galactic Confederacy, a place that existed somewhere far beyond the stars, in a region of space that most people would never see. The stadium was enormous, almost impossibly huge, with thousands of different creatures filling the stands. Some had wings, some had tentacles. Some were made of what looked like living crystal. They all watched with the same hungry attention. On the arena floor, a battle was happening. A massive warrior with thick gray skin and 4 arms threw another competitor across the ground with tremendous force. The crowd roared with excitement. Ji-woo watched without making a sound. She had seen these broadcasts before. Every 5 years, the Galactic Confederacy held the trials of extinction, and the whole galaxy watched to see who would win. In 3,000 years, no one had ever survived the entire competition. No one. Ji-woo was 28 years old, and she had done nothing important in her life. She worked as a maintenance technician on the outer colony, fixing machines and cleaning equipment. Most people did not even know her name. She went to work, came home, ate her food, and slept. That was her life. That was all it had ever been. Her apartment was small and plain. The walls were gray. The furniture was old and worn from use. She had a bed, a chair, a table, and a kitchen that was barely big enough to stand in. She had no friends to visit her. She had no family except for her grandmother, who lived thousands of miles away on Earth. They spoke sometimes on the video, but not often. Ji-woo knew that most people forgot about her within minutes of meeting her. She was the kind of person that no one noticed. The holographic arena went dark. The announcer, a voice that came from everywhere and nowhere, spoke in the language that all the different species could understand through automatic translation. The announcer said that the final round would happen in 1 week. The strongest competitors would face the most difficult challenges the arena had ever created. Ji-woo turned off the broadcast. She did not need to watch more. She knew how this would end. It always ended the same way. Some powerful alien would die trying to win, and another powerful alien would take their place. The cycle would continue forever. She went to sleep early that night. The next morning, she woke up and got ready for work like she always did. She put on her gray uniform. She tied her hair back. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw a face that looked tired. She went to work. The colony where Ji-woo lived was a big station built in space. Thousands of workers came here to mine for minerals and do other jobs. They were all from different planets, but most were humans. The humans on the colony worked because they needed money. They worked because they had nothing better to do. Tae-jun was Ji-woo's supervisor. He was a man with a kind face and tired eyes. He had worked on the colony for longer than anyone else. When Ji-woo arrived at work that morning, Tae-jun was waiting for her near the main entrance. His face looked strange, almost worried. "Ji-woo," he said, "come with me." They walked together to a small office. Inside the office, there was a computer and an official-looking document on the screen. Tae-jun pointed at it, and Ji-woo read the words. At first, she did not understand what she was reading. Then she understood. Her name was on the list. The official document said that Ji-woo had been selected for the Galactic Confederation trials of extinction. The selection was random. It was done by computer. Every citizen of the galaxy had a small chance of being chosen, and now Ji-woo had been chosen. "This is wrong," Tae-jun said. "We can fight this. There are lawyers. We can say that you are not healthy enough. We can say that there is an error. Ji-woo, we can fix this." Ji-woo sat down in a chair. She did not speak. She read the document again. It said that she had to be at the arena in 14 days. It said that if she did not appear, the Confederacy would come and take her anyway. It said that every selected person had to compete. There were no exceptions. "I will go," Ji-woo said. "What?" Taijun looked at her like she was crazy. No, you will not. You will fight this. You will not get in that arena. No one survives that arena. Do you understand? No one. In 3,000 years, every single competitor has died. This is not a game, Ji-woo. This is a death sentence. Ji-woo stood up. She felt something strange moving inside her chest. She felt calm. I understand, she said. For the next 2 weeks, Ji-woo prepared. The Confederation sent her books and videos about the arena. She watched recordings of past competitions. She saw how the other competitors trained. She saw how strong and powerful they were. She saw how they died. She also did something else. She went to the old archives of the colony and found information about ancient Korean wisdom. She found stories about tigers and mountains and warriors who won not through strength, but through understanding. One story stayed with her. It was about a great tiger that had to cross a mountain to reach a valley where food grew. The tiger did not charge the mountain. The tiger did not fight the mountain. The tiger studied the mountain, found its patterns, and walked a path that the mountain itself had created. The tiger reached the valley, not because it was stronger than the mountain, but because it understood the mountain. Ji-woo thought about this story. She thought about it every day. On the morning that she had to leave, her grandmother called her on the video. Her grandmother was very old. She had white hair and a face that showed all the years she had lived. Hello, Ji-woo, her grandmother said. Hello, grandmother, Ji-woo replied. I heard about the arena, her grandmother said. Everyone knows about the arena. I heard that you will have to compete. Yes, Ji-woo said. Her grandmother was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Do you remember the story about the tiger? Yes, Ji-woo said. I remember. The tiger did not think about winning, her grandmother said. The tiger thought about the mountain. Do you understand what I am telling you? Yes, Ji-woo said. I understand. When Ji-woo arrived at the arena, she saw other competitors waiting. There was a Valdor warrior who was almost 3 meters tall. There was a Scythian with a body made of light and energy. There was a Vorkesh whose skin shimmered like water. They were all powerful. They were all strong. They were all ready to win. And then there was Ji-woo, the girl from the colony that no one noticed. She was small next to them. She looked weak. She looked like she did not belong. But she had come to the arena and she was ready. Not to win through strength, but to understand the arena itself, like the tiger understanding the mountain. The arena was a structure that seemed to bend the laws of reality itself. It was circular and vast, with walls that extended so far up that you could not see the top. The floor was made of metal that glowed with a soft white light. Above everything, in the seats that ringed the arena, thousands of aliens from hundreds of different species watched and waited. Some of them had traveled across the galaxy to see this. Others watched through holograms. The Trials of Extinction was the most important event in the galaxy. Everyone paid attention to it. Ji-woo stood in a preparation chamber beneath the arena floor. She wore a suit that the Confederation had given her. The suit was gray and fit her body perfectly. It would protect her from extreme temperatures and could heal small wounds. All the competitors wore the same suit. All the competitors had the same chance, at least at the beginning. The other 3 competitors who had made it to the first round were in different chambers nearby. Ji-woo could not see them, but she knew they were preparing too. She thought about what she had learned from the videos. The Valdor warrior was named Chris. He was from a planet with high gravity and intense heat. His species had won the trials 17 times in recorded history. He had never lost a fight. He was considered the favorite to win. The Scythian was named Mora. Her body was made of pure energy held together by unknown technology. She was a telepathic being, which meant she could read the thoughts of others. She could also separate her body into pieces and put it back together. In the videos, Ji-woo had seen Mora defeat 3 competitors in the previous rounds. The third competitor was a Vorkesh named Zeph. The Vorkesh were a species that had evolved in water, but Zeph had been modified to live in air as well. His scales shimmered with colors that changed depending on the light. He was quick and clever. He had killed 2 competitors in his previous matches. And then there was Ji Woo, a human from a colony no one cared about, a maintenance worker with no special abilities and no training in combat. The voice came through the speakers in the chamber. It told Ji Woo that her first match would begin in 5 minutes. She would be facing Chris, the Valdor warrior. The voice explained the rules. The match would take place in a chamber that would have obstacles and dangers. The goal was simple: either defeat your opponent or survive until the chamber was destroyed. The chamber itself would change every 30 seconds. New obstacles would appear. Walls would move. The floor might shake. Nothing was predictable. Everything was designed to test not just strength, but also the ability to think and adapt. Ji Woo walked through the tunnel that led to the arena. The roar of the crowd grew louder as she got closer. When she stepped out into the light, she had to blink because the light was so bright. Below her feet, the metal floor felt warm. Above her head, the massive crowd made a sound like thunder. She saw Chris entering from the opposite side. He was even larger than he looked in the videos. His gray skin seemed to glow in the arena light. He had 4 arms, each one as thick as a tree trunk. When he walked, the ground shook a little. The crowd roared even louder when they saw him. Chris looked at Ji Woo, and Ji Woo could see something in his face. It was not fear. It was not even respect. It was something like pity. He thought she was already dead. He thought this would be easy. The voice announced that the match would begin in 10 seconds. Ji Woo took a deep breath. She thought about her grandmother and the story about the tiger. She thought about how the tiger had understood the mountain. She thought about how she needed to understand not Chris, but the place where they would fight. The match began. The chamber changed instantly. Pillars rose from the ground. A wind that was almost like a hurricane started to blow. The temperature dropped so low that Ji Woo's breath came out as white clouds in front of her face. She saw that Chris was not affected by the cold or the wind. Of course he was not affected. He came from a harsh planet. This was nothing to him. Chris moved forward. He did not run. He did not rush. He walked like he had all the time in the world. One of his massive hands reached toward Ji Woo. If that hand touched her, she would be dead. She knew this. Ji Woo ran. She ran past Chris and toward the pillars. She could hear him following her. The sound of his feet hitting the ground was like explosions. The wind whipped around her face, but she did not stop. She did not look back. She ran deeper into the chamber, weaving between the pillars. The pillars were arranged in a pattern. As she ran, she tried to understand the pattern. The pillars seemed to be supporting something. She thought about the chamber. She thought about how it changed every 30 seconds. She thought about what happened when it changed. Chris caught up with her. One of his hands grabbed her from behind. His grip was so strong that Ji Woo could not breathe. But then she did something unexpected. Instead of trying to escape forward, she dropped her weight down and pulled toward him. She was much lighter and smaller than Chris, and his own weight pulled him off balance. He stumbled forward, still holding her, and they both crashed into one of the pillars. The pillar shattered. The other pillar shook. Chris realized what was happening. His eyes went wide. He tried to let go of Ji Woo and move away, but it was too late. The ceiling of the chamber started to crack. Pieces of metal fell from above. One large piece came down directly at where Chris was standing. He could not move fast enough. The piece of metal smashed into him and drove him to the ground. It did not kill him, because the Confederacy did not allow competitors to be killed by accidents. The suit he wore protected him, but it stunned him and broke his concentration. Ji Woo had scrambled away when the pillar broke. She was breathing hard. She was afraid. But she was still standing. The chamber reset. New obstacles appeared. Walls moved. But Chris did not chase her this time. He was more careful now. He realized that Jiwoo was not just trying to run away. She was trying to use the environment against him. He would not make that mistake again. For the next 10 minutes, they fought. Chris was stronger and faster. But Jiwoo had something else. She had observation. She watched how Chris moved. She learned his patterns. She understood his instincts. When he moved left, she moved right. When he attacked high, she was already low. She did not defeat him through strength. She defeated him by making his own strength work against him, by using his momentum against his balance, by making him push against solid things instead of air. When the chamber changed again, Jiwoo understood something important. She realized that she did not need to beat Chris. The chamber itself would beat everyone eventually. Everyone would die in this arena, either to their opponents or to the trials themselves. But if she could survive long enough, if she could stay alive while others fell, then maybe she could do something no one had ever done. As the chamber shook and the obstacles moved, Jiwoo made a decision. She stopped fighting to win. She started fighting to learn. She watched everything. She recorded everything in her mind. And in that moment, something changed. The crowd, who had been roaring for Chris, began to whisper. They began to see something in the small human woman that they did not expect to see. When the chamber finally stopped and the judge announced that Jiwoo had won, even Chris looked surprised. He stood up, bowed his head slightly to show respect, and left the arena without saying anything. Jiwoo had won her first match. She had proven something that no one believed was possible. A human, small and weak and ordinary, had defeated a Valdor, one of the strongest warriors in the galaxy. The crowd did not cheer, but they did something else. They went quiet. They watched her with attention they had not shown before. And somewhere in the stands, a diplomat named Daesoon leaned forward in his seat. Daesoon had studied humans for many years. He thought he understood them. But today, he realized that maybe he did not understand them at all. After the first match, Jiwoo was taken to a medical facility where the doctors examined her. They put sensors on her body and looked at her with machines that could see inside her. She had bruises and small cuts, but nothing serious. The suit had protected her well. The doctors seemed puzzled by her. They kept looking at her and then at their instruments, as if they could not believe what they were seeing. "Your heart rate is elevated," one doctor said. He was a crystalline being, which meant his body was made of transparent crystal that glowed from within. "But your brain shows no signs of fear response. That is unusual." "I was afraid," Jiwoo said, "but I had to think about other things." The doctor did not seem to understand. He sent her to a recovery room and told her to rest. Jiwoo slept for many hours. When she woke up, she was told that the second round would begin in 3 days. In those 3 days, many things happened. News about Jiwoo spread across the galaxy. On the colony where she used to work, people watched the recordings of her fight with Chris over and over. Tae-jun, her supervisor, called her on the communication system that the Confederation provided to all competitors. "I cannot believe it," he said when her face appeared on the screen. "I cannot believe you won. You defeated a Valdor. Do you know how incredible that is?" "I am still alive," Jiwoo said. "That is all." But other things were happening too. Scientists were studying her. Analysts were looking at every moment of her fight and trying to understand how a human had beaten a warrior from a species that had never lost. Some said she had some hidden ability. Some said Chris had been weak. Some said it was luck. Daesoon, the diplomat who had watched so carefully, came to see her in the recovery facility. He was not human, but he was a species that looked almost human. He had 2 eyes, a mouth, 2 arms, and 2 legs, but his skin was a shade of blue and his eyes glowed faintly with intelligence. "I have studied your species for a long time," Daesoon said when he met Jiwoo. "I wrote many papers about humans. I said that you were clever, but not powerful. I said that you could invent tools and work together, but you were not suited for the arena. I was wrong about many things." "You were not wrong," Jiwoo said. "I am not suited for the arena. I should not have won, but I did not try to win through strength. I tried to win by understanding the place where I was fighting." Day soon became very still. He stared at Jiwoo for a long time. Then he said, "That is the most human thing I have ever heard anyone say." The second round involved 4 competitors instead of 2. The chamber was larger and more complex. Jiwoo had to fight Mora, the Cynthian with the body made of energy, and 2 other competitors who had won their first matches. The chamber had puzzles as well as physical dangers. It had areas where your mind could be tested as well as your body. Mora was a difficult opponent. She could read thoughts, which gave her an advantage. When Jiwoo tried to think about where to run, Mora already knew. When Jiwoo tried to hide, Mora could sense her presence. Mora defeated one of the other competitors quickly by using her telepathic power to make him confused and scared. But then something unexpected happened. The chamber changed in a way that was different from the first round. A puzzle appeared. The competitors had to solve the puzzle to open a door that would lead to safety. The puzzle required emotional understanding. It required the competitor to think about feelings rather than logic. Mora tried to solve it with her telepathic ability, but the puzzle did not respond to telepathy. It required something else. It required empathy. It required the ability to understand what someone else was feeling, not by reading their mind, but by imagining what their heart felt. Jiwoo understood this puzzle. She had lived a small life, and in her small life, she had learned to understand other people without being told what they felt. She had learned to see sadness in people who smiled. She had learned to see loneliness in people who were surrounded by others. She solved the puzzle and the door opened. Mora could not solve it. Mora, for all her power, did not have this skill. She disappeared from the chamber, defeated by something she could not understand. The last competitor was another being made of energy, but this one was not intelligent like Mora. It was just pure force and hunger. Jiwoo simply avoided it until the chamber destroyed it with falling obstacles. Jiwoo had won again. She was now one of only 2 competitors left in the entire trials. The other competitor was Vrax, a Zorvak. The Zorvak were legendary warriors. Vrax had 43 consecutive victories. He had never lost. He had never even been injured. In all the history of the trials, very few competitors had won even 5 matches. Vrax had won 43. The next match would be the final match. The next match would decide everything. In the preparation time before the final, Jiwoo was approached by many people. Scientists wanted to study her. Reporters wanted to ask her questions. Politicians wanted to use her as a symbol for their causes. But Jiwoo refused most of them. She spent her time in a quiet chamber, thinking. She had discovered something important during her matches. She had discovered that the arena itself was not random. It had patterns. It had logic. It had been designed with a purpose. Every obstacle had been placed for a reason. Every puzzle had been created to test something specific. She began to research the history of the arena. She read about who had created it. She read about why it had been created. And she found something that almost no one had noticed in the past 3,000 years. The arena had been created not as a place for warriors to prove their strength, but as a test of understanding. The ancient creators had left something in the core of the arena, something that only the truly wise would discover. But Vrax did not care about wisdom. Vrax was a warrior, pure and simple. The final match would be between strength and understanding. It would be between the greatest warrior the arena had ever seen and a small human woman who understood something that all the great warriors had forgotten. The night before the final match, Jiwoo slept deeply. She did not have nightmares. She did not feel afraid. She had made a decision. She would enter that final arena, and she would try something that no one had ever tried before. She would try to solve the arena instead of defeating her opponent. It was time. The final arena was waiting, and Jiwoo was ready. The final arena was unlike anything that had been used before. It was enormous, and it was beautiful in a terrible way. The floor was made of a black metal that reflected the light like a mirror. The walls extended up so high that they seemed to disappear into the sky. The obstacles were not simple pillars and walls. They were moving structures that seemed to have a life of their own. There were rotating platforms that spun in different directions. There were sections where gravity changed completely, making things fall sideways or upward instead of down. There were areas where the temperature changed so drastically that the air itself seemed to shimmer and wave. Above everything, in the stands, the entire galaxy watched. Every species had sent observers. Even beings who did not usually care about the trials had come to see this. A human had made it to the final. In all of history, this had never happened before. Jiwoo stood on one side of the arena. Vrax stood on the other. Vrax was the most impressive creature that Jiwoo had ever seen. He was massive, easily 4 times her size. His body was covered in thick scales that looked like armor. He had 6 legs that could move with impossible speed. He had 2 arms that ended in claws that glowed with a dark energy. His head was large and angular, with eyes that seemed to see everything. When he moved, it was with the grace of a natural predator. This was a being that had been designed by evolution to be a perfect killing machine. He looked at Jiwoo, and when he looked at her, she could see that he did not see an opponent. He saw something to destroy. He saw something that had no right to be in the same arena as him. The announcer's voice spoke across the galaxy. It said that this was the moment that everyone had been waiting for. It said that this match would decide who would be remembered forever. It said that only one competitor could survive. The match began. Vrax did not walk toward Jiwoo. He ran. The sound of his legs hitting the ground was like thunder. The air moved around him as he ran. The ground shook, and Jiwoo ran. She ran as fast as her human body could move, but she knew that she could never outrun Vrax. He was too fast. He was too strong. Within seconds, he would catch her. She did not try to run away from him. Instead, she ran toward the obstacles. She ran toward the rotating platforms. She ran toward the places where gravity changed. She moved through the arena like she was dancing with it, like she had learned its steps and was now performing the dance. Vrax followed her. One of his claws raked through the air where she had been standing just a moment before. If that claw had connected, it would have torn her to pieces. But Jiwoo was not there anymore. She was already on a rotating platform, moving with the rotation instead of against it. Vrax jumped onto the platform, but he miscalculated. His weight and speed made him lose his balance. He fell off and crashed into a wall. The wall cracked under the impact, but Vrax was not hurt. He was too strong to be hurt by walls. He got up and came at Jiwoo again. For the next hour, this continued. Vrax chased. Jiwoo ran. Vrax attacked. Jiwoo avoided. Vrax grew frustrated. Jiwoo remained calm. But something was changing. As Jiwoo moved through the arena, she was watching. She was learning. She was seeing patterns that no one else could see. The obstacles were not random. They moved in sequences. They changed in ways that could be predicted if you understood the logic. The gravity shifts happened at regular intervals. The platforms rotated at consistent speeds. The entire arena was like a machine, and every machine had rules. Every machine had patterns. Vrax did not care about patterns. He cared about victory. He cared about proving his superiority. He came at Jiwoo again and again, faster and more furious each time. But he made mistakes because he was not thinking. He was just acting on instinct and rage. Jiwoo made no mistakes. She thought about every step. She calculated every movement. And as she did this, she also did something else. She was studying the arena. She was looking for something specific. She was looking for the central mechanism. She was looking for the place where all the systems connected. Her grandmother had told her a story about a tiger understanding a mountain. But it was more than just understanding. The tiger had also learned where the safe path was. The tiger had learned that the mountain had weaknesses. The mountain had places where it was unstable. The mountain had places where a wise traveler could do something to change everything. The arena had a central mechanism, too. Jiwoo had read about it in the old records. It was a hidden chamber deep in the floor of the arena. The ancient creators had put a control system there. It was a fail-safe. It was designed to shut down the arena if someone ever discovered the answer to the arena's real purpose. The real purpose was not to create a fair fight. It was to test wisdom. It was to test if a competitor could look beyond the simple challenge and understand the deeper truth. Vrax pushed Jiwoo into a corner. This was it. She could not run anymore. The walls were behind her. Vrax was in front of her, his claws raised, his eyes filled with the certainty of victory. Jiwoo made a decision. She stopped running. She stopped fighting. Instead, she dropped down and pressed her hand against a specific spot on the arena floor. A spot that glowed with a faint light that only she had learned to see. A spot that was marked in the oldest blueprints with symbols that meant, "Here lies the key to understanding." The arena responded. The music that had been playing throughout the match stopped. The obstacles stopped moving. The gravity stabilized. And a voice, a very old voice, spoke across the entire galaxy. The competitor has discovered the purpose. The competitor has solved the arena. According to the ancient rules established by the founders 3,000 years ago, any competitor who solves the true purpose of the arena is declared the winner. The arena is deactivated. The trials are complete. Vrax stood frozen. His claws were raised, but they did not come down. He stared at Jiwoo in confusion and rage. He had not been defeated. He had been made irrelevant. The very foundation of the arena had been revealed. And Jiwoo had found it first. For the first time in 3,000 years, someone had survived the arena. For the first time, someone had understood that strength and courage were not enough. Someone had understood that wisdom was the greatest power of all, and that someone was a human. That someone was Jiwoo, the woman who had been so small and ordinary that no one had ever noticed her. The announcement echoed across every planet in the galaxy. A human had survived the arena. A human had won the trials of extinction. Reactions were mixed. Some species celebrated. Some species were angry. Some species did not know what to feel. The Confederacy was divided. There were many different political groups and factions, each one with different goals and different ideas about what should happen next. Some of them claimed that there was an error. Some of them said that the arena must have been broken. Some of them said that Jiwoo must have cheated somehow. But Dae-soon, the diplomat who had studied humans, brought the recordings to the Confederacy Council. The council was a group of the most important leaders from different species. They met in a massive chamber that floated in space, a place where all the different factions could gather and make decisions for the entire galaxy. Dae-soon played the recordings for them. He showed them everything. He showed them Jiwoo's first fight, where she had used the environment to defeat the Valdor. He showed them her match against Mora, where she had solved a puzzle that required emotional understanding. He showed them the final match, where she had not defeated Vrax, but had instead found the answer to a question that had gone unanswered for 3,000 years. Then Dae-soon explained what this meant. He explained that the arena had been created by the ancient civilizations that had founded the Confederacy. He explained that it was never meant to be a test of pure strength. It was meant to be a test of wisdom, of understanding, of the ability to look beyond the obvious and see the truth. In 3,000 years, Dae-soon said, no competitor had ever thought to question the arena itself. They all thought that the only way to survive was to be stronger than your opponent. They all thought that might made right. But humanity teaches us something different. Humanity teaches us that sometimes the greatest strength is in understanding. Sometimes the greatest power is in wisdom. The council was silent for a long time. Then one of them spoke. It was a crystalline being similar to the doctor who had examined Jiwoo. "Are you saying," the crystalline being said, "that humanity is superior to us?" "No," Daesoon said. "I am saying that humanity is different, and sometimes different perspectives are valuable. Sometimes the things that seem like weaknesses are actually strengths. Humans are not physically strong like Valdor. Humans are not telepathic like Cynthians. Humans cannot survive in extreme temperatures like many other species. But humans are adaptable. Humans are creative. Humans think in ways that other species do not think, and those things matter." There was more discussion. There was debate. Some council members argued that the arena's purpose had changed over time and that it was now a test of combat, not wisdom. But other council members agreed with Daesoon. They said that they had studied the ancient records, and the records showed that the arena had always been meant to be a test of understanding. Eventually, after many hours of discussion, the council made a decision. They decided that Jiwoo's victory was legitimate. They decided that the arena had been correctly solved. They decided that humanity had earned the right to be respected as an intelligent species that could contribute to the Confederacy. But there was something else. Vrax, the great Zorvak warrior, did something unexpected. When the council announced their decision, Vrax stood up in the observation gallery where all the competitors were sitting. He walked down to the floor where the council sat, and he knelt down on one knee. In the culture of the Zorvak, kneeling to someone was a sign of respect. It was something that a warrior only did to someone they recognized as superior. "I have defeated 43 opponents," Vrax said. "I have never been beaten. But today I have been shown that strength without wisdom is not enough. The human did not defeat me. The human showed me that I was playing the wrong game. I have learned a lesson. I am grateful." When Vrax said these words, something changed in the room. The other species began to understand. They began to see that this was not about one species being better than another. This was about learning from each other. This was about understanding that different species had different gifts. Jiwoo was given a choice. The Confederacy offered her many things. They offered her wealth and power. They offered her a position in the government. They offered her a place on the council itself. But Jiwoo refused most of these things. "I want to go home," she said. "I want to go back to the colony where I worked. I want to see Taijun and my friends. I want to see my grandmother." The Confederacy was surprised by this answer, but they allowed it. They gave Jiwoo a ship that could travel faster than any normal ship. It took her home in only a few days. When she arrived at the colony, there was a celebration. Taijun was waiting for her at the entrance. He was crying. He gave her a hug that lasted for a very long time. "I cannot believe it," he said. "I cannot believe you survived. I cannot believe you won." "I did not win," Jiwoo said. "I understood. That is different." But things had changed on the colony. Humans were no longer seen as just simple workers. They were seen as clever beings who could solve problems in unique ways. Other species began to come to the colony to work with humans. They wanted to learn from the human perspective. They wanted to understand how human minds worked. Jiwoo was offered many jobs. Scientists wanted her to help them think about problems in new ways. Governments wanted her to advise them on strategy. Explorers wanted her to join their expeditions to places no one had ever gone before. And slowly, Jiwoo began to accept some of these offers. She began to travel to different planets. She began to work with different species. She began to teach them about human thinking, about human creativity, about the human ability to find answers in places where others would never look. She also contacted her grandmother and told her what had happened. Her grandmother laughed, a laugh that sounded like bells ringing. "I told you to remember the tiger," her grandmother said. "I told you that the tiger did not fight the mountain. The tiger understood the mountain, and now the galaxy understands this too." But the most important thing was that Jiwoo was no longer invisible. She was no longer someone that people forgot. Everywhere she went, people knew her name. People respected her. People wanted to listen to what she had to say. And it had all started because she had raised her hand in an arena where no one had ever lived. It had all started because she had decided to look at things differently. It had all started because she had been willing to be the one person who no one expected to survive.